Welcome back to my Carpenter's Daughter YouTube channel. This is something that I've wanted to do for years, and that is to turn wood into a personalised project, such as these vintage coasters. And with it being DIY, I obviously want you to save money, and that's why I'm going to talk about the differences that I learnt between the Mod Podge photo transfer medium and the regular Mod Podge. And maybe you can guess already why one of them turned out like this, which is obviously not what I wanted. Now this project starts at your local library for a laser photocopier. It can't be inkjet. So we're going to need some wood to transfer it onto. Initially I started cutting some softwood because it's cheaper. This is my dad's woodyard, by the way. And he turned around and said, "Whoa there, Pickle, I've got some Sapele hardwood. It won't warp, use that." So I'm cutting again. The next job was to make sure it's all smooth, which I think is really important for a good photo transfer. I also chamfered the edges, and I wasn't entirely sure whether this was a good idea. We'll cover that later. So I'm back home on my narrowboat. This is the materials that I used. I'll be applying it with these foam brushes. I also dug out some of my SD brayers, and later I'll be using a credit card at hand. I printed off a good selection of images. Now these originally started as my own lino prints, and the ones I printed on vintage dictionaries, I thought its antiqueness would lend to the style, particularly if I do mess anything up. But if it's important to you, you need to reverse the images. And the personal holiday photos, like of my dog, and I'm glad I saved this for a cold day because you can do this at home with your kids and dogs near you. So the first thing I wanted to do was make sure all of my images were square and got the same image throughout. I knew this was going to get a sticky mess, so I've got a plastic thin chopping board there, so I could pour the photo transfer one that we're going to use first straight onto it and then apply. But the first thing I noticed was it's very thick. It's thick like a dried out sun cream. So I really didn't know how this was going to work, and it felt very sticky and tacky. But I applied liberally, as everybody tells you to, but not too much, and placed it onto my coaster, making sure it was lined up. If you've misaligned it, you can move it slightly. It will move a little bit, although it's better with the other one for that. And I initially used my brayer to smooth everything out. And then I'd try and mould it around the chamfered edges with a credit card. Now, do you remember when I said it's very sticky? I did notice it was quite easy to tear the paper using the card, especially if you got sticky stuff on the back of it. So let's carry on. This is the second one. Also, where the chamfered corners meet, I found it easier just pressing that down with my thumb to manipulate it. Now, I said it gets really sticky. I didn't really want it to stick to the chopping board while I was using it, so I decided to apply it on a scrap piece of paper this time, and that nearly became a disaster. It actually stuck to the paper while I tried to peel it off. So after doing 4 coasters with my dog, I decided to move on to the next one just in case that didn't work out. So now I'm on to the matte water-based glue, the traditional classic one. When pouring this onto the mat, this was a lot runnier. I found it so much easier to work with. So exactly like before, I'm applying fairly liberally, not too little anyway, and try to be as even as I could. But I'm using the exact same application method, the brayer, the back end of the brayer to smooth anything out like a squeegee, and then a credit card. After doing 3 sets of 4 coasters, everyone says to leave it for 24 hours to be safe. I decided to leave them near my boat's stove and probably gave it maybe 18 hours, something like that. Things tend to dry a lot quicker near there, but they don't burn. And it's time to reveal the images. Instead of using a wet rag, I'd heard a lot of people talk about their fingers being enough and having better control. So I've got a warm pan of water next to me, and I'm just dipping my fingers in and rubbing off the paper gently as I go. I've got a lot of hoovering to do later, trust me. So yeah, I love the image showing through. This is the photo transfer medium, by the way. This is the only set that I use this for. But as I was rubbing away, I thought, is the white paper ever going to disappear? Even after 10 minutes on each coaster, and you can just about see some wood grain. I'm going to come back to that one as a test, but I wasn't overly happy the fact that I couldn't see the Sapele properly. Let's move on to the matte water-based one, the classic one, which is actually cheaper and you get a lot more for your money. I'm a tight Yorkshire lass. And I immediately noticed that the paper was disappearing and leaving a contrast laser ink behind. Now you might be wondering what paper I was using. I can't entirely be sure what the council use, but I'm guessing it's just cheap copy paper. So I'd keep dipping my fingers, rubbing it, repeat and repeat and repeat. And you'll probably also be wondering whether you can rub too much. Yes, you can. Although I notice it takes a lot of effort to do that. But don't forget, because these prints were done on an antique tatty dictionary, any slight patches missing, and there's the odd one, not many, it lended to the design. So I'm really glad I've got this technique out of my system, because I think it's opened a lot of more possibilities about finished projects, how I can put my own logos and things on there, made by Carpenter's daughter and things, or even just a cheaper way of personalising projects and signs. And I definitely, just want to confirm, I definitely do not like the photo transfer medium. I really don't like the white paper effect it leaves. I even went back, rubbed it even more, and it just started to take the black ink off. So I just don't think it's any good. It's probably just solely for fabric, although I have seen other people have success. I didn't. And if you kept rubbing that anyway, I think you'd be left with no skin on your fingers. The matte Mod Podge, however, is far superior. It's far easier. It's much easier work. So what I'm going to do next is varnish them, but I've still got a lot of others to rub off. And the reason I haven't done them is technically today, right now, it is the 12th of December. And my 12 Days of Giftmas series has caught up with me and I'm knackered. So I'd really love to hear your thoughts, whether it's been useful, whether you found any of these ideas beneficial, whether you'd like me to do this again next year, and what has been your favourite project out of all of them, and maybe what's your least. And if you didn't enjoy them, let me know. And if this was your first project and you still need some ideas, then I highly recommend going to the very start of my 12 Days of Giftmas series, because I dedicated each project just for you to help you save money and make personalised gifts on a budget. Anyway, hopefully I'll catch you there or in the future. Merry Christmas!